very soon. First up, though, I want to talk about another story that's been in the news. We've had a few of these stories over the last week involving young Brits abroad who are languishing in jail on remand, having been accused of smuggling drugs. First of all, we had Bella Cully. She is just a very, very young woman. She's only 18 years old. She went missing when she was over, we believe, in Thailand and Vietnam, and she was travelling around. And then she suddenly turned up in Georgia, where she was accused of smuggling a huge amount of drugs. It was claimed that she had drugs with her. She has been kept behind bars there. And then, of course, we had a £1.15 million stash of cannabis, which a British air stewardess, Charlotte May Lee, is accused of having tried to bring into Colombo Airport in Sri Lanka last Monday. It was a synthetic strain of the drug Kush. Now, both of these women, of course, are getting help from our representatives overseas, our commissions and embassies overseas, and, of course, getting help from lawyers as well. But how much sympathy should we have for Brits caught abroad with these accusations? Let's talk to Stacey, who's Chief Executive of Prisoners Abroad. Very good afternoon to you, Chris.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I have to say, look, we all know that, things can happen. People can get falsely accused of crimes. People can be fitted up as part of a sting operation. That this has happened. We know this. I don't know the ins and outs of either of these cases, but I suspect there may be a possibility that one or other of these women were involved with drug smuggling, and they've been fooled into doing it, carrying drugs, thinking it was fairly risk-free. And now in two countries where they take this stuff very, very seriously indeed, in Sri Lanka and Georgia, very, very far apart, but nevertheless with strong policies on this, could now face many years behind bars. How much sympathy do you think Brits should have for these women?
Well, when you see photos of suitcases packed full of drugs, I understand how it's easy to jump to having very little sympathy. But for Prisoners Abroad as a charity, this isn't about sympathy or even whether someone should or shouldn't be in prison. It's about people's basic needs and their dignity, supporting people while they're in prison. And for the last 45 years, we've supported people in these types of situations. And for a large proportion of people, they've not set out to travel overseas and commit criminal offences often. And in these two cases, we are talking about very young, vulnerable people. And this is on the rise.
Why are they vulnerable? 21-year-old working as an air stewardess, you're not vulnerable. 18-year-old? I've got an 18-year-old, she's not vulnerable. I think she knows not to smuggle drugs. I mean, she wouldn't worry about the authorities in another country. She'd worry about me, but,
Well, I think a lot of people who have teenage children who go on holiday, you worry about them, you appreciate that surrounded by a foreign language, surrounded by unfamiliar circumstances, you are vulnerable. I think, and that's the case for a lot of people. Women that are young, that are travelling on their own.
Do they get targeted? I mean, is there an issue? There's difference. I know you're saying we don't really care whether someone's innocent or guilty. That's irrelevant to what you do. You want to make sure people get the help they need. And again, I'm always in favour of these people should get the legal help that they need. And often they're not even getting diplomatic support. We expect if it happened to us, and people are falsely accused abroad of various different crimes. But there is an element, I think a lot of people, and I'm kind of one of these people that's like, you pays your money, you takes your choice. You know there's a soft penalty in this country. That's why people are scared of smuggling drugs into this country. You got talked into it by a guy you met in a nightclub and he offered this or that and you had a great lifestyle. You knew the risks and you did it anyway. Tough. Is that too harsh?
I understand why you and others would have that view, and I think it's about recognising not just why somebody is there, but now why they are there and what they are facing and what their families are facing as well. This creates a huge amount of turmoil for loved ones back here in the UK who are desperately trying to make sure that their loved ones are okay, that they're looked after, that they're getting what they need. And many thousands of miles away from home in terrible conditions.
Oh, yes.
The conditions in Sri Lanka, they're overcrowded. The UK government's own advice is that there is rat infestation. People are in dormitories of up to 30 people. So for any young person who finds themselves in that situation, and for any parent or loved one, it is an incredibly distressing situation. I think it's about recognizing what people's needs are at that point and making sure that they stay healthy, that they have access to clean water, food, some of the basic things that we take for granted, but in prisons around the world are far from guaranteed.
Very fair points. Chris Stacey from Prisoners Abroad, really appreciate that. Thank you for joining me. Sam Armstrong, it's kind of one of the reasons why I don't, among the reasons why I don't smuggle drugs or don't take risks. Again, we don't know whether these two women are guilty or not, and I hope they get legal advice and all of that. But fundamentally, far too many Brits think they can get away with stuff, and they kind of think the rules don't apply to them. And hate to tell you, you end up in somewhere like Georgia or Sri Lanka, or God forbid somewhere like Singapore or China in prison. Things are really rough, and weirdly, you're not going to be given special treatment.
Yeah, and I don't sympathise in the least. These girls are an embarrassment to this country. They're an embarrassment
if they are guilty.
If they're guilty, they're an embarrassment to this country. They're an embarrassment to their families. Look, we've seen it before. We'll see it again. They're all too happy, flying around the world with money they haven't earned, posting pictures.
One of them
posted
pictures of her with a whole load of wadges of cash.
Oh yeah. Like, how on earth has she managed to afford that? Never worked a day in her life. She's
vulnerable.
18 years old. She is not vulnerable.
I'm joking.
She is an adult. She's responsible. I'm sorry, but being a woman does not mean that you get an exemption.
Also, you're 18.
Stuff.
You're an adult.